Thank you, Andrew Stevens, for the What's On. So, if you're over 50 and your GP has told you better do something about your health, perhaps you're overweight, have a family history of heart, cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, you name it. Chris is an inspirational guy. He was that person and is not ashamed to tell the world about it. He's, however, come a long way since then, is now motivating and training others to do the same. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks, Nicholas. Great to be on your show.
Thank you so much for coming in. So, can you tell us, how did this all start for you?
Yeah, it's quite a long story actually, but it started from when I was just turning 50, which was about 8 years ago. And my GP said to me that he'd noticed that a lot of my fitness and health parameters were all getting out of control. He'd noticed my blood pressure was going up, I was pre-diabetic, I was nearly 18 stone in weight, my aerobic capacity was going downhill, and my GP said to me, Chris, if you don't do something about this soon, bearing in mind I was then just turning 50, if you don't do something about this soon, then it may be too late. But at 50 and in your 50s, you've still got time to change. So do something about your weight, do something about the amount of fat you have, do something about your blood pressure, do something about your aerobic capacity, and see what happens. Also, my blood lipids were high, I had far too much fat in my bloodstream, and of course far too much sugar. So I was officially pre-diabetic, and I was officially obese as well. And at that stage I thought, well, I really ought to do something about this. So I took my own health and fitness into my own hands, made it my own responsibility, and I started doing some exercise, which is amazing because I hadn't done any exercise since school for 30 years, more than 30 years. And I've always been lousy at exercise, lousy at sports. I was always the last person to be picked for football or for rugby at school.
And did your doctor actually tell you to exercise? Did they tell you how to make the changes?
No, because I could find it out myself. So I didn't really need to be told by my doctor what to do. So I found out for myself. But having started doing some exercise, I realised things were going great for me for the first year or so, but then I realised I was slightly on the wrong track. And I'll explain what I mean by that. For the first year, I got into doing lots of cardio type exercise, so that was running or on the cross trainer in the gym, or on a stationary bike, or on a real bike for exercise. And also I just cut down what I was eating. I started counting calories, and I cut my calories drastically down to about 1,600 is what I tried to focus on.
So were you aware of how many calories you were having before?
Not at all, no. I was having lots and lots of pizzas, lots and lots of burgers, lots and lots of fish and chips, huge amounts of beer.
So convenience type of foods?
Convenience food, yeah. I had absolutely no interest in my health or fitness levels at all, did no exercise, couldn't run for a bus, couldn't run for anything, and had done no exercise at all since school. So I was a total and utter slob.
So what actually clicked in your head then? Because there will be people listening who have just recently been to the doctor and had this sort of health scare where they've, warned you that things, are going a bit downhill. What clicked in you and made you make the changes?
I think it was the fact that he did say to me that unless I started doing something about it soon, that I could well be pushing up daisies at some stage. I was kind of in last chance saloon. He said 50 isn't the last chance you can change this, but in your 50s is probably the last time you can make a major change to your health and a major change to your fitness level. I thought, well, maybe I could do this, maybe I can't.
Do you think there's something about turning 50? An
interesting coincidence was there was, at the same time I had an aviation medical, because one of my hobbies is flying small planes. I've got a licence to fly small planes, which is a great thing to do. I wish I could afford to do it more often. It costs a fortune, but I do it sometimes. But but you have to have an annual medical, and that medical takes place every year when you renew your licence. And when you turn 50, the medical becomes more stringent. So your heart, your cardiovascular checks have to be fine. Your ECG has to be better. Your blood pressure has to be better, and so on. And my aviation doctors told me at much the same time that I was fit enough to fly a plane at 49, but wouldn't give me a licence at 50. So if I wanted to carry on flying a plane as a hobby, then I needed to get fitter as well. So in
double motivation.
In the same month, I had 2 warnings: one from my GP, one from my aviation doctor.
And what would you say to somebody at home who's thinking about making a change to their health? How could they start?
Well, the first thing is don't expect instant changes. For me, it took the best part of 30 years to put on a lot of my body fat. It didn't take me that long to take it off because I was very focused on it, but most people won't be as focused as I was. But don't expect miracles overnight. but just make some gradual changes in your eating pattern and in your movement and exercise pattern as well. I've got a whole range of different things, of suggestions to make. For example, on eating, try to control your eating, and one of the best ways of doing that is to plan your eating. And one of my phrases I use with my personal training clients now is plan your eats, then eat your plan. In other words, work out a plan for the day, what you're going to eat. You can do it first thing in the morning if you like, and then follow that plan. Don't deviate from your plan. So plan your eats, then eat your plan. Obviously, the contents of what you eat for each meal is important as well.
Because also, it's so true, isn't it? Once you're not hungry, you're then less likely to choose bad options.
That's right.
So only if you get caught out and you want something that's convenient, quick, and really hungry, and you might choose something high in sugar or processed.
And if it's convenient, quick, and convenience as well, doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Just make sure you don't have too much of it. Control your eating and eat well, but don't eat too much of anything that's too bad. Often my clients say to me, Chris, how many chocolate biscuits am I allowed a week? Because I love chocolate biscuits. And I say to them, well, 6 is better than 8, and 4 is better than 6, and 2 is better than 4, and none is better than 2. There's no concept of how many you're allowed. It's how many you want to take, because the more you have, the slower it'll take, the longer it'll take for your fitness up and your fatness down objectives to be achieved. So I'm a big believer in the combined objectives of fatness down and fitness up, and those two things both go together at the same time: fatness down and fitness up. So if you want to eat bad things and do less exercise, then you can, but be aware that that will lead to a longer delivery time for your goals. A phrase which isn't the most easy one to live with, but it's a true fact, is that there is the number one fact that determines the success or failure of anybody's fat down and fit up project. Do you know what it is? What's the number one fact?
What is it?
It's the ability to put your long-term goals ahead of your short-term goals, or your long-term desires ahead of your short-term desires. Your long-term desire is, I want to lose 3 stone in weight, or I want to get down to 8% body fat, I want to win a fitness competition. So those are your long-term goals. Your short-term goal is, I want a pizza. I can't be bothered to go to the gym today. Those are short-term goals.
So reminding yourself all the time of your goal at the end.
So the ability to put your long-term goals, which is, I want to lose 3 stone by the end of next year, or I want to be on a fitness model competition by the end of the year after, or whatever. Those are your long-term. Your ability to prioritise that ahead of your short-term goals, saying, I want that chocolate biscuit, but I think I want to lose 3 stone more. If you do that, then you're well on the track to success.
Okay, and also your wife is into fitness, isn't she? You told me before off air that she's into running, and so that must have been easier for you, having somebody at home who's helps you with the exercise and the eating healthy. Yeah, she was into running and into fitness way before I was, and she'd spent ages gently nagging me to try and get fit, and all the way from when I was 40 up to 50, and she'd kind of given up on me, I think. I don't know if she went to see those doctors and bribed them to say those things to me, I don't know. But she's always been into fitness, and she's got me into the running side. I'm not a natural runner. My number one sport is working out in the gym. I go to the gym and work out in the gym every day whenever I possibly can, including yesterday, which was the day after the marathon, which is quite so most people won't go to the gym the day after a marathon, but I did. And I've already been in the gym this morning as well. So wow! And congratulations, by the way, for running the New York Marathon.
Oh, thanks very much. Yes,
so you've just come in from there. Well, do you want to tell us about the marathon?
Yeah, the good news and the bad news about the marathon is the good news is that I looked at the results this morning. The marathon was 2 days ago, by the way, on Sunday, and I flew back from New York overnight last night. So if I landed at about 3 miles away from here at 7 o'clock this morning. So if I collapse, that's because I'm fast. But having gone from Heathrow, the first thing I did was I went to the gym, by the way. So just to show you how nutty I am on this kind of thing.
Yeah. Most people will be resting.
Yeah, I should be resting, shouldn't I? The good news and the bad news about the marathon is, the good news is there were 11,000 people who came in after me. The bad news is that 43,000 people came in front of me. So it's 55,000 people in the marathon. I came in about 3/4 of the way down.
But you made it.
I made it. Yeah, I'm not a big runner in terms of I didn't train for the marathon at all.
And you've told me before that you've done previous marathons, and you had, was it ice cream on the way round?
Yeah, in Vienna I had ice cream on the way around. Yeah, in this marathon I stopped for a Coke. I mean they're giving out Gatorade every mile. And by the time I got to mile 20 or so fed up with Gatorade, I had to go and find a shop and buy a Coke instead. So I needed something with high sugar in it to give me the quick carbs, the swift carbs.
During something like that, it's okay, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wouldn't normally drink a Coke, but I did.
How did you find it in New York?
It's fantastic. Fantastic.
The first time you've done that one?
Yeah, I've been to New York before, and I've done marathons before, but I've never done the New York Marathon before. But I
what was the crowd like?
Very, very supportive all the way around, with some great encouragement, much better than I've seen in the other marathons. I've done marathons in 5 other places, and they've all got some kind of crowd, but none of them are quite as enthusiastic as the New York crowd. Not quite all the way around, but certain sections were a bit quiet. But all the way through Brooklyn was very noisy. Manhattan was very noisy. Most of Queens was noisy, so it's very, very good.
You must be still buzzing from the experience.
Absolutely, yeah. I should have brought my medal in to show you, shouldn't I?
You should have.
My finisher's medal. I'll show it to you next week.
So you said that you haven't really trained for this marathon, though. What sort of training have you been doing?
Well, I do cardio every morning as part of my general keep fit.
Yeah, because it's not advisable just to go and run a marathon without training.
No, I certainly wouldn't advise it to anybody. No, and I didn't run the whole marathon. I ran the first about a third of it. I ran that. Then the next third I half ran and half walked it, and the final third I mainly walked it. That's why it took me the best part of 6 hours to finish. So
That's still a long time on your feet, though.
It's a long time on your feet. Yeah. Didn't sit down at any stage. I did stop and buy a Coke. And in Vienna, as you said before, I stopped to buy an ice cream. In London Marathon 2 years ago, I had a pint of beer halfway around, which was very nice. But I don't actually, since I don't train for marathons, I don't do them to get a good time. I don't try and kill myself. It's more important to me to come out of the marathon injury free, being able to walk around and being able to go into the gym again the next day. Without having an injury and without being totally exhausted. That's more important to me than getting a good time.
So how many marathons have you run?
Oh, and people sometimes say to me, in the marathon, did you get a good time? And I usually say, no, I didn't get a good time, but I had a good time.
That's good.
So it's one of my phrases. I don't do marathons to get a good time. I do marathons to have a good time.
To have a good time.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it. I chatted. I stopped a couple of times and chatted to the crowd. I congratulated one. I congratulated one of the guys on a very good, some nice posters. They've got some great posters. The best poster I saw, being held up by the crowd, the best one I saw was one guy had a poster which said, "It seems like a lot of effort for a free banana," which I thought was quite a good thing to hold up.
You only get free bananas.
They give you out free bananas at the end of a marathon, so it's just the poster. It seems like a lot of effort for free banana.
And how did your wife get on?
Oh, she did it in just about 4 hours, so she was much quicker than me. She ran all the way around.
That's a good time.
She's done 12 marathons and I've done 6.
Wow.
And my wife Jenny, she's done last year, earlier this year in fact, and next year she's doing an ultra marathon, which is 95 kilometres run.
So do you think your former self would have ever seen you doing a marathon?
No way. If I'd still been my former self, if I hadn't followed the doctor's suggestion and learnt about fitness and started taking care of my own fitness rather than just eating everything I could find and doing no exercise, if I hadn't followed my doctor's advice, I suspect I'd either be dead by now, because most males in my family have been dead by their mid-50s. If not dead, then I'd be a 20 stone overweight unhappy person, people thinking I'm smiling and jolly and happy, but deep inside I'm quite miserable because I'm 20 stone. So no, I would never have thought I could have run marathons.
Yeah, and also going from 20 stone, you've also done some fitness modelling, haven't you?
Yeah, I was never 20 stone. 18 stone is the maximum.
All right.
I was saying if I hadn't taken up fitness, I'd probably been 20 stone by now. Yeah, I've done some fitness modelling, which is something that I got into after about 5 or 6 years of getting fit. Because when I started to get fit, I think I mentioned before that I was. It went well for the first year, then things went slightly off track. What happened was in the first year I did a lot of exercise and surprised myself by enjoying it, but I only did cardio exercise. I did running, cycling, cross trainer, and stairmaster, and so on. And I just cut down my calories. But I didn't know anything at all about weight training or resistance training, and I didn't know anything at all about different kinds of calories, about different macronutrients. So in that first year, I did lots more cardio type exercise and ate a lot less overall. And that resulted in a lot of weight loss. But that's what it was, weight loss. It wasn't fat loss, it was weight loss. So in that first year, between about the ages of 50 and 51, or maybe 52 approximately, I was losing weight rather than losing fat. And in case listeners don't know what the difference is, losing weight means you're losing muscle as well. So you're losing weight from everything. You can't really lose weight on bones. Bones are fixed once you're an adult. You can't really lose weight on your skin or your organs or your heart or your lungs. You can't lose weight, or your brain. You can't lose weight there. But you can lose weight in fat, body fat, and you can lose weight in muscle. They're the two main things you can alter your weight on. And in that first year, maybe 18 months, maybe 2 years even, I was losing weight, which means I was losing body fat, which I wanted to lose, and muscle, which I presumably didn't want to lose. But I hadn't thought about it. And it was only at that time did I decide to meet a personal trainer, and I met a personal trainer while on holiday, actually, on a holiday with Jenny. I met a personal trainer who was a top fitness guy, and he took me under his wing, so to speak, and said that he would help and advise me and introduce me to the weights room of the gym. So I knew the cardio room very well. I knew the cross trainer very well, and I knew all the cardio machines. But he introduced me to the weights room of the gym, and at the same time he began to educate me in nutrition as well, and telling me that as well as cutting down my calories, I should within that be keeping up certain food groups, like keeping up the fibre and especially keeping up the protein, so that the weight I was losing wasn't a combination of fat and muscle. It was mainly fat, and muscle I had got rid of I could add back by eating the correct type of nutrition rather than just eating reduced number of calories. And you introduced me to weights as well, and so started showing me what a dumbbell was. And I didn't know what a dumbbell was or a barbell was when I was 52, but I do now. And I got hooked. I got addicted to it, and I'm happy to say I'm addicted to the gym and addicted to training. Absolutely.
When did you notice your body changing shape?
Pretty soon. Pretty soon in the first year or 18 months, as I came down from being 18 stone, I came down to about 15 stone fairly quickly, and then probably down over the next couple of years down to 12 stone. But from 12 stone to where I am now, which is 11.5 stone or 73 kilos, it was a lot slower, because I'm quite happy with being 11.5 stone. I don't want to be any lighter than this, and I don't particularly want to be any heavier than this. I'm 11.5 stone now, 73 kilos, which at my height of 5'10" seems to be about right for me. I'd still like to change a couple of things. I'd like to lose about 3 or 4 pounds of body fat somewhere and find 3 or 4 pounds of muscle to replace it with. Losing the body fat is actually easier than finding the muscle to add it back. So I'd still like to do that. But I noticed the changes straight away, and especially I noticed the changes once I'd been introduced to the weights room and I found out a little bit about resistance training. And from that, I learned a lot myself. I mean, I read a lot of books, read a lot of magazines, saw a lot of videos.
Is that when you decided to become a personal trainer?
Yeah, and I was so hooked on it. Eventually, I took early retirement from my real job, which was working in the city selling software. So I took early retirement from that and concentrated on learning my qualifications for personal trainer and a nutritionist.
And now you're helping others do the same.
Yeah. So, of course, one of the things I noticed, and here comes another one of my phrases coming up now. One thing I noticed obviously was just a massive drop in my income, because I was employed, I had a salary. I had a cheque going into my bank automatically every month, which is fantastic. Don't have that anymore. I just get the money from personal training as and when I take on personal training clients, which I do, maybe 1 or 2 a day on average. So the phrase I'm going to come up with is that, and I use it a lot, is I'm not actually in fitness to make money, because I don't make money from it. I'm not in fitness to make money. I'm in fitness to make a difference. First of all, I made a difference to myself, and having done that, I've made a difference to other people. So I like to make a difference to other people. So,
and you work with other people in a similar situation to you were in.
Yeah, exactly. Nearly all of my clients are over 50. There's a couple of younger ones, but mostly are over 50, and most of them have the same combination of goals, which is fitness level up, fatness level down. And I work with all my clients to help them improve their fitness level, take their fitness up and take their fatness down. And a phrase I like to leave them with is that it's my job to help them to add years to their life and life to their years. Because if we add years to their life, but also we add quality to it as well. So we add years to your life and add life to your years, which is something that
which we mentioned earlier in the myths and facts.
Yeah, I heard it.
About exercising as you get older.
Yeah. I heard a lot of those. Interesting, yeah. One of the phrases I use with my clients, which usually causes them to collapse in laughter, I hope it'll do the same for you, is that the key thing about fitness is it's not rocket science, it's rocket salad.
Rocket salad.
You laugh, well done, good. So, yes.
Okay, so you also do a lot of work for charity, and I know you've mentioned the marathons that you've run. Yeah. Do you want to talk to us about the charity work that you do?
Yeah, I've done work for all sorts of charities. Sponsored things, and I think some of my
because you're organising an event now, aren't you?
Yeah, I think some of my friends are getting a bit fed up with me asking them for sponsorship money. But there's one particular cause that near where I live. There's a young girl called Esme who's 5 years old. She lives with her parents, and she has got something really nasty called Rett syndrome. And Rett syndrome is a locked-in syndrome, which means that her brain is functioning normally, but her arms and legs are flailing out of control. She's got no control over most bodily functions, and her parents have to learn to deal with this. So she developed normally until she was 2, and then she started going downhill. And most Rett girls, and it only affects girls, by the way, most Rett girls die when they're in their early 20s. But that means Esme is going to be around for 20 years, and they want to try and help her as much as they can. So she can't speak anymore. She started to learn to speak when she was 3, but she can't speak anymore. But she can use her brain, and she can move her eyes. So I'm trying to raise money to help buy a eye movement detecting computer for her with speech synthesis. So we're trying to get a computer that will stare into her eyes, watch her eyeballs move, and translate that into words. And that technology doesn't come cheap. It's £25,000 from the US, including all the software and the training. And I've committed to raise £7,500 of that. And I've done some of that by running a marathon. I ran the Dublin Marathon last year. I raised some money from that. And then I raised some money from running 5k a day in April this year. So every day in April this year I ran a 5k. People said 5k a day in April. You should have done 5k a day in May. It would sound better, 5k a day in May.
In May.
But yeah, I said, but that's one extra day, isn't it? I'd rather do it in April, only 30 days. So people sponsored me to run 5k a day in April. And the third and final event is a concert I'm organising this Saturday, which is quite a way away from me. Actually, it's in Wendover, which is just beyond Amersham on the Metropolitan line. Well, it's beyond Amersham on the Chiltern line, actually. And I'm organising a concert with a male voice choir attending, and hope to raise the final £2,500 from that. And it's taking a lot of time to organise.
So not only have you helped yourself, you're helping others.
Yeah, so maybe I can just give the website if anybody's interested in the charity.
Yeah, certainly.
Well, first of all, I have to explain it's not a charity, so there's no there's no you can't add gift aid to it. And the reason why it's not a charity, and I bet you didn't know this, it's quite interesting, is you can't legally have a charity set up to benefit only one person. A charity has to benefit a group of people. So since I'm raising money just for this one girl, just to buy her this bit of eyeball detecting computer equipment, it can't be a charity. So anyway, the page, it's bit.ly.com, which is bitly.com, then /voices for Esme, VOICES FORESME, Voices for Esme, and Voices for Esme has to have a capital V and a capital F and a capital E.
And we can tweet these after as well if anybody's not got a pen handy.
Yeah, sure. So that's what I'm doing. So hopefully that'll get us the money that we need to get Esme this computer. So if you imagine Stephen Hawking sitting in his chair with his voice synthesized computer, it's like that, except the computer is nearer Esme's eyes, because the computer is actually looking into Esme's eyes, seeing where her eyeballs move to choose the words or to choose the pictures from it.
So we mentioned earlier about motivation. Obviously, you've used this goals to help other people then to motivate you into all these challenges. How else do you motivate yourself, and how will you keep motivated going forwards with all of your various fitness pursuits?
Well, I do have a lot of different things to do in fitness, but I'm very lucky because I'm 58 now, so I've pretty much retired from earning money. My wife Jenny's got a good job, which is great, so that helps pay the mortgage, thankfully. So I motivate myself because I can kind of afford in life to only do those things I want to do. So if I don't really want to do it, I don't do it really. So it's ridiculously lucky the position I'm in that with Jenny earning and we can afford to live on Jenny's salary. I don't make much of my personal training. Like you, I do a radio presentation, but on a different station in Marlow, in Bucks. And that doesn't pay anything. I'm pretty sure you don't get much of a salary here, do you?
No.
No. I do some work on TV as well. There's a TV documentary that was made about me a couple of years ago, which is called Fat to Fit at 50, it's been seen by 100,000 or 200,000 people. But again, I don't make any money from that. But I wanted to do it, so it was interesting.
And hopefully it helps other people.
Yeah, yes. Everything I do is really designed to. No, that's a bit too grand. A lot of the things I do is designed to help other people. I mean, I love it myself. So when I go on stage and for fitness modelling competitions, for example, I do it because I want to do it myself. It doesn't really inspire other people. So if somebody says there's a huge vanity chunk in there somewhere, the answer is yes, there is. And I guess I'm unusual about being body conscious and vain at the age of 58. Most people who are body conscious and vain are 28 rather than 58.
But it's funny because you weren't obviously that way before.
No.
So something's changed in you.
Yeah, I think it's getting into the world of fitness, and I've met lots of nice people in fitness as well. So I have to tell you one more story, which is that I told you before I had a personal trainer who worked with me a lot and helped me a lot. It's a very famous guy, by the way, the world of fitness. A chap by the name of Rob Riches. Have you heard of the name?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's still
celebrity trainer.
He's still a celebrity
in all
trainer.
The magazines.
He wasn't in those days. He was just my mate. He still is my mate, even though he lives in Los Angeles now. He said to me, Chris, if you follow my advice, Chris, 4 things will happen to you that are good, and 1 thing will happen to you that's not so good.
And what are those?
Okay, right, thank you. He said, well, the 4 things that are going to happen to you is 1, you're going to get a lot fitter, obviously, which has happened. 2 is you're going to enjoy yourself a lot. You might not think you will, but you really are going to have a good time doing it. Number 3, you're going to meet some really nice people along the way, especially if you keep your options open and your ideas open and not constrained. You meet really nice people, which I have, like yourself, and other people that we meet together. You meet really nice people. And 4thly, if you're lucky and if you want it, you probably get a little bit famous. So, and I have been lucky, and I did want to be a little bit famous, and I have got a bit famous. So, they're the 4 good things.
Talk to us about the fame, because you just brought in a magazine today as well.
I should tell you about the one thing. I did say the one thing would happen was not so good.
Oh yes, what was that?
You won't make any money at it. Which is true as well. I haven't made any money at it. Sorry, talk about the fame. Sorry.
Yes, and you brought a magazine with you during.
Yeah, I've just only because I picked it up at Heathrow this morning when I landed back at. I got a text message while I was in New York yesterday saying that I was in this month's edition of Men's.
So you weren't aware of it?
No. It's only a paragraph about me. There's no photo. It's just a paragraph about me. So.
Well, there you go. So you're getting out there.
So yeah, no, I've been on a few photo magazine covers. And I've had lots of articles about me, and there's TV series that I've worked on the first series of, and the second series going to include your good self.
Yes, which we're looking forward to for next year. So we're just going to take a little bit of a break now. It's just coming up to 2:30, and then we'll be